Okay, so I want to talk about something that is a sensitive topic or a topic that I don't often talk about because I know for sure that I have a hard time with being completely transparent and honest. However, I have been attending a conference for the past day, and there is this reoccurring theme that keeps bringing itself to the forefront, and that has to do with mental stability. And that has to do with emotional intelligence. And something that I began to implement very heavily last year was the art of self-care and really practicing what that looks like for myself, and then being able to empower other people to also practice self-care. So with that, like my brand Empowering Her, like the whole base and the premise of that now is that it's a women's empowerment brand for self-care. And I did that because I was working at a job where I was one of like 5 Black people and the youngest person who was in this particular organization. So I dealt with not only like racism, but also sexism and ageism, and trying to continually to prove myself that I belong there. And in the midst of all of that like happening, I began to really experience like panic attacks, and it was very hard because I didn't know how to be like upfront and honest about it, and the only person who really kept me sane through that whole process was my best friend. And it was like over the next 365 days, it was just like things continued to happen. So with that situation, and then with the organization that I helped to found, where it's like you're putting in all your energy and you're giving all these resources and you're not really receiving anything back. And then also fast forwarding from that is that I experienced a miscarriage. So in that, I was always trying to be like, all right, I'm strong, I can do this. Like, I can't let anybody see me cry, I can't let anybody see me sweat. But in actuality, I was like harming myself or doing myself, wasn't doing myself well. So with that, my panic attacks started to come back or resurface themselves a lot. So like that miscarriage situation, which is something that like nobody really knows about, like my mom, my best friend. But what it helped me to do, and even though like these things are tough situations, what it really helped me to do is that it helped me to find myself. So like my battle with anxiety helped me to figure out who it is that I was. And then with that, like the miscarriage was really something that pushed me to say, hey, I need to actually go into therapy. And like when you're in the Black community and you grow up in the church, and it's always like, pray about it, it's gonna be all right. Mm-hmm. Like God gonna work it out. But what happens when it's like I'm praying and it's still not working? Like I need to be able to talk to somebody. And I know there was a point with me, or there was a point within this experience where I was like, okay, mom, I'm going to go to counseling. Hey, grandma, I'm going to go to therapy. Hey, favorite cousin, I'm going to do this. And everybody was like, well, why? Why are you going to therapy? Like, it's okay. Like, just pray about it. And I'm just like, no, everything is not okay. We can't just sit here and pretend that things are fine and dandy, and we can't sit here and pretend as if like mental health issues, 1, don't plague the Black community, and 2, do not affect this family when it actually does. And we try to sweep things underneath the rug versus bringing them to the forefront and being very honest about what is happening in this moment, and being able to adjust your feelings in that moment when it's actually happening, when you are experiencing these things. So with that, I wrote a few things, and it's just some points that I just want to talk about. And one thing that I have is like the image I thought I had to upkeep because of what other people thought about me. because I've always been the planner, I've always been the strong person, I've always been the go-getter. And then it really got to a point where I was not able to be transparent or be completely honest or be vulnerable enough to let people experience or embrace me, even though I was standing up in front of crowds and I was speaking. Even though on my social media platforms it looked absolutely amazing. In actuality, once the lights were off and the cameras were gone, I was crying and I was not in a good place where it even seemed like, all right, do people actually love me, or like what is this? Like, how do you really deal with those things in that particular context? So like when you see that post on Instagram or on Facebook when it says check on your strong friends, like you really have to check on your strong friends, because while it may look in retrospect that they have it all together, like things are going how it's supposed to, it may not be. So you have to ask people, how are they? Like, are you doing okay? Like, really, are you doing okay? And once I decided to go to therapy, I went to therapy at the beginning of 2018. It was amazing to me that you don't even realize how much trauma or how many incidents that you have suppressed, and how one little trigger can bring something to the surface and it seems like it's this huge thing, when if you would have dealt with it in this moment when it happened, the reality or it resurfacing again, you would have been able to deal with it better. So with that, it really came to this point where it's like I'm responsible for myself, and within this year I have really been restructuring my life, right? Where I've stepped down from leadership roles with two nonprofits that I was highly involved with. One that I actually helped to start and found, where it was like, okay, I can't do this because the feelings of anxiety being in the situation was so overwhelming that I began to lose myself. And every time I got to the table with these people, it was just like, I shouldn't be here, even though I was doing exactly what I love to be doing. But internally, I felt like I was like literally drowning myself. So that saying no and being very confident in saying no and being able to walk away from stuff that you love, but if it's not serving you well, you have to walk away. So I started this talking about a job that I had. I walked away from that job. I quit. I talked about helping to start this nonprofit organization. As one of the founding members, I submitted my letter of resignation. To really embody this idea of self-care, of what I stood on the platform and say, hey, this brand that I'm creating or that exists is about self-care. I cannot preach to someone, or I cannot speak to someone about something that I'm passionate about but I'm not actually living in my life. So how do I talk about something that I'm not 10,100% about and that I'm doing and I'm practicing for myself? And I know for sure that my miscarriage was both a blessing and a curse, because what it did was it woke me up and it allowed me to not say like, all right, God, like, why did this happen to me? I said that, but it really was like, there is a lesson in this situation. And I had to learn what that lesson was, and I had to pray and ask him to reveal what that was for me. And with that, like, sometimes we become too busy and we don't actually choose ourselves, and we give so much of ourselves away that we don't have anything left for us. And we're not necessarily balancing that. So I know, like, I wanted to be in my word more. I wanted to pray more in like that situation, because I was operating outside of what God had told me to do, and I was dealing with a person that I had already had revelations about that I wasn't supposed to be messing with, and then ended up pregnant, and then ended up losing that baby. It was just like, okay, like, this is real. Like, my relationship, my walk had to align with what I was doing. What I was talking about on these stages had to align with what I was living in my life. So with that, like, my battle with anxiety really forced me to find myself. and forced me to say, hey, I'm going to begin to choose myself more and more this year. So if that means I have to leave certain situations and certain things that I'm doing, I have to be 10,000% comfortable with that. And it's funny because right after I leave here, right now in Washington, D.C., I'm going to Detroit, and I'm going to go to Detroit for the first half of summer. Like, I literally packed up my apartment, put it in storage, and going to Detroit for the first half of summer. Why? Because I am choosing me, and that's what I feel like I need to do. Because I know when I went home in December, for the first time after leaving Detroit in 5 years, I felt like I needed to be home, and I did not want to leave. I feel, one, because I needed the love of my family, I needed my friends, I needed all that stuff to feed my soul for me to be able to pour into other people. So that really, again, forced me to find myself in the art of really choosing you, in the art of really practicing self-care for the betterment of everything in your life, both personal and professional. So thank you for listening.